Okay, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning,
Well,
Professor.
good to see you.
Good morning and good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to you.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon to us.
Hello.
Yeah, the world is an amazing place, you know. Well, hopefully, one day I get to visit Ethiopia. I look forward to it. And I've had a good conversation with the your administration there, so I think I will visit one day. I think it's going to happen. So
Okay.
Wish you to be true.
yeah, so we've had a good 4 weeks here. Uh, it surprised me how much we learned in a short period of time. And every time I teach a class like this, I learn more than you do. I think I learn so much in terms of the ideas, the concepts, and I learned a lot from you. And I want to thank you for your approach to the class and your commitment. And you did a very good job. And all you guys are doing very well. And so you should not have any concerns there about what your grade will be. You all will do fine. So I want to give you some relief there. There's no problems there. You guys have done very well. So the day is a day for you to ask questions or any concerns you have in terms of preparing for next week. I want to start off by giving Daysalin a chance to discuss his idea proposal because of his connection problems. He did not able to discuss. So Daysalin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mosisa, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So why don't you give us an overview of what you plan to do for your presentation and how you plan to approach it in terms of your research question.
Okay. I hope it is me, yes?
It's you, yes, You have the floor.
Okay. Thank you for your offer, and really I apologize for the last week's instability of my internet connection. And I hope you may understand me, and all of my classmates may also understand me. Actually, I have proposed to perform my dissertation on the issues of financial technologies, and the inclusive goals in Ethiopian context, or most probably in sub-Saharan. It may be based on some contexts and some issues. Actually, the thing is financial technology or fintech by itself new in the issue of finance, and even most of the world's population, about 2 billion of world populations, are still unbanked, and they requires to be included into the financial service or into the financial system by using different mechanisms like the service or operations of financial technologies. In addition to that, the developing countries, because I have proposed maybe sub-Saharan Africa's or maybe in Ethiopian contexts, and developing countries, economic growth is not inclusive. They are actually not based on justice, and even they are not based on equal distributions or fair distributions. But all in all, I hope this fintech and inclusions of the financial system may enhance the economic growth for our economies. But this issue requires me to read some detailed issues because most of the papers have done the contexts of financial technologies because by using some qualitative issues and financial inclusions and that of inclusive growth by using some quantitative contexts. Therefore, my methodology even may enhance me toward this understanding the advanced concept of some qualitative, quantitative, or some mixed issues. And even I need to request you and my fellow colleagues to provide your personal comments on these issues.
Okay, yeah, let me go first. So
I hope you are hearing me, yes?
I hear you. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've actually done some research in this area, and there's ways for you to approach this broad topic of, financial technology unbanked from the perspective of the currency. And we're talking about the currency, we're talking about the amount of currency in the economy and the velocity of that currency. So there's been a long literature about something called the cashless society. And so when we talk about the cashless society, we're talking about the ability to use ATMs, use debit cards, credit cards. So these are what we call electronic payments. So before we had financial technology, in some ways you talked about this in the paper that you presented, that there was an evolution of different types of stages of development of the electronic payment system. It then went from electronic payment system to mobile banking. And so now from mobile banking, we now are transferred over to this third stage, which is financial technology and Bitcoin and different types of payment systems. And so one way to look at that, or one way to find out, is to find out first, because probably there is data on the use of the currency in Ethiopia. And so even though you may not have the actual designation of financial technology, you will be able to see a relationship between the currency and the rate of growth in the economy. And so, you might be able to infer that as you take on different levels of adoption, that the use of currency in the economy will revolve faster, which will lead to a further velocity of money. And, at the Federal Reserve, they have this model called P star. And P star talks about the money supply. And more than likely, because Ethiopia is a part of the, in some way has international transactions, you might be able to find aggregate data on the money supply. And on the money supply, you might be able to get some idea of this idea of the use of the currency in the unbanked. Now, other than that, you're going to have to, this whole idea of unbanked, bank. I'm not sure of the data that's available in that sense, but when you expand it to sub-Saharan Africa, you're definitely going to be able to get more information on the use of currency in sub-Saharan Africa. And that's very interesting because if you start to look at the different uses of, and I wouldn't even stop at sub-Saharan Africa, I would do all of Africa. Because if you do all of Africa, then you get into different levels of development. So for example, South Africa has plenty of data on essentially their currency, mobile payments, and so forth. And so you're able to break the dichotomy into developers, less developed, and different levels, or what we call the frontier economies, right? Frontier, sub-Saharan. And there's a well-defined market for getting a better understanding of what we call the frontier nations. And so, these frontiers, and then, you can take a look at the frontier to the non-frontiers will be South Africa, Ghana, and so forth. I'm sure there's detailed information on the currency. And so even though that might be more, people might think of that as more economic or banking, fintech is banking anyway, but you're going to be able to really designate that in terms of the currency data. The currency data is available. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Salim, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on looking at the currency, trying to find out what's the currency data, and have the currency data is associated with the velocity of money, and being able to associate the velocity of money with the use of technology?
Can I speak?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Actually, I don't think that tech is not only this, the currency only. And even actually, we may get from National Bank of Ethiopia the data, the quantitative data. But I think, in developing countries, the availability of data is actually very low. And even if they have 1 year, they may not available in another year.
Mm-hmm.
Or they are not in full. For instance, in some developed countries, you may get some databases like the Findex database of the World Bank, or maybe different databases. But as per my issue, I wanna see especially the contexts of financial inclusions from two sides. One side is actually the demand side, and on the demand side, we may see the number of accounts which are created, even the number of payment issues, the number of saving, insurances, financial resiliences, and other contexts. But what we have to know in this context is, even once the account is created, many accounts are actually inactive. And we may hear from the internet, from the television, some banks are providing, I have such amount of account holders, but they do not reveal how much amount of numbers of those accounts are inactive. Why? Because they are in fierce competition. They are competing with each other. But actually in Ethiopian contexts, the regulation is very harsh, and even some foreign banks are unable to enter. The only thing which are allowed till now is that of diaspora bank. Even the Equity Bank of Kenya wants to enter, but still they are unable to allow for that banks. The thing is, for the case of financial technologies, I wanna see which technology is adapted in Ethiopian context, which is not adapted, and which one is usable, and how it have the nexus with that of financial inclusions, and even how the financial inclusion have some relationship or the nexus with that of inclusive growth. And actually, in detail, I hope through in detail dealing with some empirical work is I wanna modify throughout the proposal. But till now, what I actually from the theory based and from empirical based, the issue of this fintech, it is financial inclusions, and maybe if you also wanna comment on me, what if I may add financial literacy on such contexts?
That's the next thing I was going to get at was your, you kind of answered your approach, theory-based, empirical-based. So I'm going to send you a paper that kind of, the way I would approach it is I understand your approach, but you have to understand that there was a well-developed literature on, I'm gonna call it financial technology before there was financial technology, which is mobile payments. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is that if you take a look at that literature of mobile payments gets into all the things that you're talking about because it outlines all the development of literature such as financial literacy, such as use of technology, and how to look at that in terms of the macro and the micro economy. So that's what I was trying to mention earlier, that there are macro issues here and there are micro issues. Financial literacy is a micro issue. Velocity of money is a macro issue. But in each of those areas, there's well-defined literature. For example, the macro issue is the velocity of money. And not knowing what the data is, you kind of saying, I don't know essentially what the database is. It sounds like you feel like you have an idea of this inclusion, non-inclusion, and so forth. The whole point of financial literacy is either a control variable or it could be much more dynamic in terms of the acceptance of financial technology. So now it becomes more complex because you're getting into some type of dynamic relationship, or it is more what we call codependent or conditional modeling kind of thing. So now you're getting more sophisticated. So again, it's all the questions I kind of pose to everybody is that I think you got to have a well-defined, because this could be a very powerful dissertation and could pose you as the expert in the area if you do it properly by looking at all of Africa and going to this whole thing of developed, non-developed, frontier, non-frontier, and macro and micro issues. So if you think of it that way, you know, if you don't get good results on the micro and you get on the macro, it still is a contribution. And the amount of work is probably the same because, again, like I was saying, that I think we have maybe a disagreement on the type of data because I think the developed African countries that are part of the international economy do have, I think, data over time that is going to be able to track in terms of the impact of currency and the use of technology. And what that does mean to, if you can parcel that out in terms of what that does mean in terms of economic growth. You know, so I think we have that's an idea worth exploring in terms of, you know, fintech. You know, as you're saying, that the whole idea is that fintech will increase economic growth. And, you know, the same thing was for mobile payments. That mobile payments, there is a well-defined mobile, and there is data on this also, that in Africa, there's a well-defined mobile payments network. Now, I kind of know a little bit about this because I had a friend that was actually doing business in Africa in terms of this mobile payments, and these networks is more, you know, in terms of, you know, it gets into, you know, kind of this whole thing of volume and use of the network. And these electronic payments are being tracked. Where that data is going, I don't know. But somewhere in Africa, there is this tracking of mobile payment system and so forth. And you know, I don't know if that's done if the governments are tracking this data, but it's worth finding out in the developed nations in terms of the use of these electronic payments. And so, you know, that's how kind of I would look at your approach here is more in terms of, you know, you have to take a look at this older literature. And the older literature gets at this whole use of currency. There's even the use of something called a currency board. The currency board says that, well, maybe the country doesn't have control of the money supply, so therefore there's some type of international government relation. We know that Ethiopia is a country in financial distress. And so the impact of the currency, and you can see the terms of currency is a way to look at it. And, you know, when I'm talking about the currency, I'm talking about two things here. I think we might do. One is the currency of the, another thing, I'm talking about the cash in the economy, the money, the demand for money. The demand for money is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the currency itself. I'm talking about the demand for cash. The amount of cash that's available in the country will fluctuate. And so, you know, how you take that cash is broken down into different components. And that is tracked. So we talk about the actual cash in the economy when I say currency.
Professor Daniels,
Yeah,
just Mr. Mulune is waiting for you. Just
oh yeah. Okay. So any of your colleagues want to comment on Mr. I think he's looking for comments. Any other comments? Go ahead, Jason Lynn.
Are you giving me, Professor?
You go ahead. Yeah. Why don't you summarize?
Yeah, actually, it is better. Actually, even I have thinking about the Africa level, but how do you think that I can quantify the fintech contexts? And even if that issue requires me some qualitative data. How I collect from the whole of those representative countries or maybe sample countries.
Yeah, you have to do some type of
If it is actually if it is quantitative, it is good. But if it holds some data of qualitative contexts, maybe it is too difficult to collect because it requires, this title is actually similar to the project. It is very broad because I haven't seen those research who have interconnected such fintech with that of financial inclusion and the financial inclusion with that of inclusive growth, because most of the research have done maybe on inclusive growth and financial inclusion.
Mhm.
And some of them maybe the adoption, the use, the determinant, and the likes of fintech, but they haven't coincided with three of them at the same time. How do you think?
Well, I think it's some type of like very similar to option pricing theory, right? You have binary, or you have some type of decision. We call it decision making tree. So there's a well-defined theory of we call it decision making. This tree, these trees, decision making trees, very similar to option pricing, which is binary. And so it's either you know financial inclusion or not adopt. So I think based upon, I guess you might call it qualitative. It's not qualitative, but it is quantitative. It's a binary decision making tree. And you would be able to defend being able to categorize countries over time on the best of your ability, whether they are adopting technology or not adopting technology, based on some summary of the data of your best educated guess. And so I don't think that's, and then you could expand that over time. So let's you take a time period. Let's say you're doing you have to say what your sampling period is, whether it's quarterly, based upon your final data, whether it's quarterly or monthly or yearly. You'd be able to come with a sampling method of even things like financial literacy. You'd be able to say whether they are financial literate or non-financial literate, and then do that in terms of those are your controls. So the kind of first thing you have to think about a very broad descriptive data set. And then that descriptive data set, you will be able to get into your final measure, which is, the adoption of fintech or the non-bank or the non-bank and the bank. Even that right there, let's say that you have summary data, we probably have some idea of the number of the unbanked and the bank. And again, that gets you into this whole idea of this decision-making tree. So the point is that once you get into this type of analysis, which is these path-dependent tree modeling, you don't need continuous variables. You don't need to have variables that are very hard to get. You just get into this whole idea of adoption or non-adoption. And then non-adoption or adoption can then be based upon things that you do have use of, which is, GNP and, the type of the banking system, all these other things. But, if you Google or you look at decision-making trees, which is really what you're getting at, you're trying to say, what is the decision to use fintech or not use fintech, or what does it used to be? What is the impact of financial literate or non-financial literate? You could do that. I think that's much more valuable than thinking about the data in a way that might not be attainable, or because it sounds like you have a very good idea of how to proceed in terms of the modeling. Now it's just a matter of, again, usually the data and the analysis. And again, I think if you look at, in fact, we know that there is this in Africa, that there is a in the developed countries there is much more information to categorize. And so and then I think this literature on frontier nations, people are eager to learn more. So you will be able to place a paper like that fairly easily, I think, in a decent journal. So it's worth the effort to really dig. And you have to be creative. You're going to find that you're going to have to create these variables and defend them. But I think it's doable. That's kind of my comment. Okay. We can come back to you, Jason. So give that some thought. We now should probably move on and kind of just open the floor to, what your ideas are, what your comments are. Mr. Mulina kind of sent me that some of you may feel that you're not ready. So maybe we'll start there. Why don't we have an open discussion on where you think you are, what you're ready to do, and how you want to proceed? Because now technically the class is now your class. I'm open to ideas in terms of how you want to proceed. The main thing is that we meet the requirement that everyone does a presentation. I'm open to changing the timing, things like that. We have to finish by the 19th. So, Mr. Muller, why don't you take the floor? Tell me how you want to proceed. Okay, can't hear you. Yeah, good. Okay, yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah. Gotta put your mic up. You can't hear you still. You gotta put yeah.
How about now?
It's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As I gave you an email before a day or so, we, the very purpose and intention was to have a proposal that could be suitable for all of us to pursue for the dissertation, rather than having an alternative proposal that could be presented to you as a fulfillment of the course. It would be better to have a proposal that will last long with us and will be pursued for the dissertation. And we thought, we need to review some literature probably, as some of us yet didn't, select a very convenient topic for that. It may need review of some literature, which we are doing, in fact. Mm-hmm. And, we may need to fine tune it to fit into our local purpose or our context, whatever it is, in terms of geography or in terms of conceptual framework. And we thought, that may need us some focus and concentration on which we need to go through more literatures, consolidate the proposal, so that, we will come to you with a defendable and presentable proposal of our own, than giving you an idea here and there. This was the very intention.
Okay, I'm open to that. So let me first go to Ms. Kadis. Ms. Kadis, are you still comfortable and want to present on the 9th?
Hello?
Yes. Are you still comfortable? Do you want to present on the 9th?
Actually, if you question me to tell you the truth, I am ready for presentation. If you want to make on the date, I rush on that. Simply, I am trying to do literature, trying to do some introduction, all these things, not in depth. But if you are interested to give us some time, may we give us, we give you a better proposal. Then I support the idea.
Okay, all right, let's do this then. So it sounds like everyone needs more time. So this is what we'll do. We'll take the 9th off. That gives you the weekend and everything, and we will start on the 11th. Is that better? So because you know there are 7 of you, I believe. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there are 7 of you.
Yeah.
And so that means we need 7 hours. So if we push it back to, unless you're willing to, if you're willing to stay an extra hour, then we can give you all of next week off, okay? To do your research. You know, if you have questions, of course, I'm available for any questions that you have. And we come back on the 16th, ready to start. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. We'll take all of next week off.
Dr. Dennis?
I will only meet with you if you send me an email. That way that allows me to, you know, prepare your written notes. Okay, so we both we'll all take next week. And then we come back on the 16th.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea?
Yeah. May I say something?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
The Mulune's message was, which was supported by all of us. So as he said that we are planning to come to you with presentable proposal. That's the alternative you are giving for us is good. Let's meet on March 16. And then if it's not completed on March 18, maybe 1 hour is too long. If you allocate 30 minutes per student.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, you could talk as long as you want. The whole point is not so much as the time period. The whole point is that you know, give a chance to talk and discuss, and we just allocate an hour but it's your time. You don't have to use the full hour. You're able to present your intro and things. You know, we're just giving everyone the allocation of that time. So you know, that's not the intent is not to make you talk for an hour. Is that, you know, we want to give you proper time for you to, you know, display with anything you want to display and not rush you. So if you want to do it in a half hour, that's fine also. You know, it's not, it's up to you.
Yeah, 1 hour is long, so 7 hours long. So let's pause next week, March 9 and the March 11. Let's focus for the preparation literatures and then bring for you presentable proposal on March 16, most probably on including 80. So I think all of us will agree on this.
Okay. What do you think, Ms. Bagali? What's your comments?
Yes, Professor. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Do you hear me?
I can hear you.
I agree with the idea which is raised now.
Okay.
And if you give us time extension, I think it will be better for us to prepare ourselves in a good way.
All right. Taye, what's your feeling?
Okay, also just accept. So we'll come up just with good idea as much as possible on March 16.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Mosic, you in agreement?
Yeah, I also agree with the idea you have raised, and till that at least we will come up with some presentable ideas for discussion purpose.
Okay.
Not for the dissertation purpose, actually.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So that means we will have the standard would be much higher. We see good ideas, and we have much more interesting discussion. Okay, so we're all in agreement. So we would take the 16th and 18th off. If you want to have any questions, send me an email and I will open the Zoom. If I don't hear from you, I will keep the Zoom closed. So it's not like I'm not available. Anything I can do to help, let me know. That gives me time to prepare these notes I want to make for you and make everything available on Dropbox or something like that. I have to find a way to get these videos to you. So it allows me to do that. And then we will come back and meet on the 16th. So you guys can fill Mr. Gurma in, okay? And so do you have any more questions for today? Okay, all right, so let's take advantage of the time. You guys enjoy your weekend. And we're in good shape. You know, I think we're all ready to, we have some interesting topics, and we'll meet back on the 16th, okay? Okay.
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
All right, you guys take care.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.